So we are recording now. Um, I'll say it again. Thanks everyone for joining. I know it's a holiday week, so we appreciate the time. Just go over a quick agenda. Danny is going to start by going through the reports and he'll give you an updated idea of which reports are available directly in the tool right now and which ones are still under revision. Um, he'll go through all of those. After that point, anyone on who's an enrollment tool user can feel free to hop off because the remainder of the session will really be focusing on the service tool. So after Danny goes through the reports, we're going to talk about these new inactive subcategories that have been added to the service tool, and then a few other more minor but still useful and important tool updates. And then I will touch on the other resources in addition to this training that are available for you as you all get used to the tool changes. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and Danny will take over.
Thank you, Zoe. Zoe, actually, can you keep sharing? Can you,
Yeah,
if you could share the slides,
no problem.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about the enrollment tool reports and the service tool reports. When we had the training for batch 1 changes last month in October, not all the reports were ready. Unfortunately, more reports are ready, but still not all of them are ready. So I'm gonna tell you about what's there and what's working and what's not there yet. So let's go to the next slide. So I'm not sure if how many folks have been using the reports that have been in the tool, but again, to access the reports, if you go in the tool and you click on your name, there's a pull down, and where it says export site data, that's where these reports are. So if you click on export site data, and then if we can go to the next slide. For those of you who are enrollment tool users, you'll see a dialog like this for reports for the enrollment tool. And up here on the screen, we have Twin Cities. So the Twin Cities and Pittsburgh are the 2 sites that have 2 PHAs. All the other sites are just 1 PHA, so you won't have to double select. You can just select the site. But for Twin Cities and Pittsburgh, you would select your site, and then you would select your PHA. So all these reports, all these enrollment tool reports are now working. We think they're working. We've checked them. They look good. So and these are reports that you should be familiar with on the enrollment tool side, because they're the same ones we email, except for the 5th one. I will go over the 5th one, but the first one is kind of point in time enrollments. And so now you'll be able to, instead of getting this once a week, you'll be able to pull this at any time, and it will give you the point in time enrollment counts. And then the next 2, enrollment tool report 2 and 3 are just enrollment tool report 2 is week by week. Enrollment tool 3 is month by month, and it'll give you those counts. The enrollment tool report 4 decline to consent is one that we've been emailing every week, so that's the same report there. And then here is this new one where it's working now, enrollment tool report 5, which has some counts of other adult consents. So Zoe, if you can go to the next slide. So this is what it's going to look like. It will also come out as a CSV file when you download it. And it tells you the top part of it is counts of families, and the bottom part is counts of individuals. And it tells most of the top part is, families who have all their other adult consent forms collected. These are, for other adults who are not the head of household. So that's what this whole report is about. It's about collecting consents from other adults who are not the head of household. So this report is pretty good, but there is a small glitch in it, and we're going to try and improve the counts here, but there's something actually underlying in the data that's a little bit off. But I think that you should be able to use these reports just to get a sense of what's going on. So here you see that 46 families have all of their other adult consent forms collected. One family has some but not all of the other adult consent forms collected, and then 22 households have no other adult consent forms collected. So you can see what's going on that. And then when you look at individuals at the bottom, there are 91 other adults, 65 of those adults, consent forms have been collected, and 26 haven't. So you can see, just basically the whole status for all these other adult consent forms. Okay. Let me stop there and just see if there are any questions about this report, since this is a newer one. Any questions about this one? Either put a question in chat or come off mute. Okay. Well, feel free if a question comes up, or feel free to email us afterwards if you have a question about this report. So let's go to the next slide, which is about service tool reports. So these are 10 service tool reports. And unfortunately, only 5 of these are working. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see the 5 that are working, 5 that are not working. I know this is almost impossible to remember which ones are working, which ones aren't working. I think it's going to be about, it's going to be a few more weeks before they're all working. And so I think it makes sense for us to make it easier for you. We can try and see if we can gray out the ones that aren't working, so you're not trying to click on them when they're not working. So we need to do more for you about so that you don't inadvertently, try and pull down a report that's not working, to make this clear for you. So the ones that are working are the active units list, service tool report 3, the active searchers list, number 5, the financial assistance usage, number 7, all the disbursements, and 10, all the property owner information. And then on the right are the ones that are unfortunately still in process. Most of those are ones that we are still uploading on a daily basis. So we're as eager as you are to kind of get them working in the tool. Again, my apologies. I think that it's looking like it's going to be a few weeks, so something like mid-December, when we're hoping they'll all be working. Any questions there? Okay. I'll turn it back over to Zoe, and I guess, Zoe, as you said, if there are any enrollment tool staff who want to drop off, that's fine, because the rest of the training will be about the service tool.
Yes. Yeah. Feel free to hop off if the rest of the session won't pertain to you. All right. Thanks, Danny. So the first non-report related tool revision that I'm going to talk about is these new subcategories that have been added to the inactive status. So as I'm sure you're aware, there are 3 different statuses that a service tool household can have. They can be active, that's just the standard, going through my mobility services, my coach. You can be inactive, or you can be in services complete. So this slide just has a super brief refresher about the difference between services complete and inactive. And this has also been released in some documentation that I should have written the specific ones here, but I didn't. So I can follow up afterwards when I send this out with a reminder of which documents to find which resources in, because I know there have been a lot. But the inactive status is meant to hold participants who have been unresponsive to mobility staff outreach. So in the user guide and in some other documents, there's specific protocol for when you can 100% identify someone as having been unresponsive. It's like, you have to have reached out to them over 3 times over the course of 2 weeks with various different methods, and then you consider them unresponsive. We are also going to be using the inactive status for a participant who's no longer participating in the HCV program. So they no longer have a voucher. That means they're no longer going to be receiving mobility services. And for participants who have requested that mobility staff do not contact them anymore, and they are not planning on having any future engagement with the program or with services. That last category is sort of the blurriest line, especially when you're thinking about the services complete status. We use services complete for participants who have had to pause their housing search partway through services or who have gone through a full search and have a documented search outcome. So for services complete participants who've had to pause their housing search, that conversation could sound something like, it's not a good time for me and my family. I'm not going to move right now. I don't want these services right now. Maybe I'll try again next year. Versus a conversation with someone who would be moved to inactive would sound something more like, don't call me anymore. I don't want this ever. Stop contacting me, basically. Um, the distinction is that the inactive status is meant to take them completely off of the service provider's radar. They're in the inactive status. You're not really seeing them. They're not showing up on like your list of people who've gone through the full services, versus the people in services complete. You will probably have a scheduled future contact with them in 9 months or 8 months or longer than that to check back in. So it's the distinction of whether they're fully out of sight unless they want to contact you, or if they're remaining in your services complete list and you have a flag to yourself that in a few months you're going to check back in with them and see if there's been an update in whether or not they're ready to move. So the new inactive subcategories are unresponsive, requested no contact, and no longer an HCB participant. Um, these subcategories are just on the household report in the same place where the other statuses are. So it's in the household information form in the summary section. And I'm going to do a demo. I'm just going to go through these slides first and give you an idea of each status and a little bit more detail around them. So the unresponsive category is for if a service provider has attempted to contact a participant at least 3 times over the course of 3 weeks and you're not able to reach them, you'll use the unresponsive status. And then it will pop up a questionnaire for you. When you select that status, you'll answer the questions, however is appropriate, and then you'll save that form and that household will become inactive with the unresponsive subcategory. If you're moving somebody to the requested no contact, that means they likely decided that they don't want to receive mobility services anymore and they don't have any plans to re-engage with you in the future. So we say here, these participants should have expressed no interest of re-engaging with services sometime in the future. So you're going to stop contacting the participant, but of course the participant can always contact you to reinitiate their services. So the onus is on them in that case versus on you. So that's something to think about when you're figuring out if this person goes in the inactive category or in services complete. And there is a questionnaire with different questions for this category as well. And then the last inactive subcategory is for when you're no longer an HCB participant. This will probably entail communication between mobility staff and the housing authority. It's most likely on the PHA to notify the participant that they've lost their voucher status. But processes are different at different sites, so that is, sort of up to you how that works. But we have a questionnaire where you can indicate whether the PHA has notified the client that they are no longer a voucher holder and thus no longer receiving mobility services. All right, I'm going to pull up this form on the tool. I'm sorry. All right. So if I go to the household information form, this is the status area. So this person's currently inactive. If I needed to change her to inactive, unresponsive, I would get these questions. Have I made the necessary attempts? If this is a person who's entered phase 6 but hasn't done a post-move check-in, there's a specific question for them, and then it asks if you sent an email to the client to tell them that their status has changed, they're no longer active, but of course they can contact you to re-engage at any point. If they've requested no contact, it will just confirm that this is an appropriate place to put them. The client has told you they don't want the services anymore, um, and has expressed no interest of re-engaging in the future. Again, you'll send them a final email confirming that you will no longer be contacting them, but to let them know that they can contact you if they change their mind. And then the inactive, no longer a HCV participant. If you indicate yes to this, it'll give you a follow-up question asking if the PHA has notified the participant. Another new feature of the tool that coincides with these categories is in batch one, we separated families based on their status. And now the inactive table will show you which subcategory they're in. So that should just help you from like a overall seeing what the deal is, how many people you have in each status. You can just see that at a glance on the inactive dashboard table. Any questions about that? Does that make sense to everyone? Anything I need to clarify? Okay, great. I'm gonna go through some of the other tool updates, and I think what's gonna maybe flow the easiest is I'm gonna go through a couple slides and then I'll demo those 3 items in the tool, just so that I'm not going back and forth like after every slide, because I know it's a little clunky. All right, so for scheduled contacts, there have been 2 updates made. One is that you can expand and collapse the list of scheduled contacts. So that should just help make viewing it a little bit more manageable. If there's a lot, you can hit this show more button. It'll expand to show all of them, and then you can tuck it back in by hitting show less. Um, there's also a search bar, so you can search for a scheduled contact by the name of the participant, the name of the staff member, the date that the contact's been scheduled for, or if you want to search a planned activity that you know you entered in, you can search any of those fields using the search bar. So that hopefully should be helpful. The search outcome activity form has been enhanced. We've added a few new fields, mostly to help staff indicate when somebody has paused their services versus has gone through the entire services process. So you can indicate now, and this is small for me to see, so I'll show you in the tool, but you can indicate if the person has not moved or has not moved to an opportunity area. We've expanded the fields that offer options for that. And then with one option being the participant never began their search, meaning they never made it to the phase 4 stage where they were actively searching, or the participant started their search, but it had to be paused or interrupted for some reason, like an external factor, it wasn't a good time for them. Um, so I will show you that in more detail in the tool. And then kind of going hand in hand with the search outcome form, we have this reminder set to pop up. So if you are moving a participant from any phase into phase 6 or 7, you'll need to complete the search outcome form. Even if there's no lease up involved and you're kind of skipping over phase 5, we still want to make sure that you're using the all activities option within a contact to fill out the search outcome form. That helps you stay organized. You can see like, you know, the reasons around somebody having to go right from phase 4 to phase 7, and we can see how many participants have had to pause their search versus have gone through the entire process. So if you are in a contact with somebody in any phase and you go to move them to phase 6 or 7, you will get this pop-up that says, remember to complete the search outcome activity form before moving a participant to 6 or 7. Um, This will also pop up if you have already done the search outcome form. So it's a little redundant, but we just figured better safe than sorry. So you just hit OK. If you've already done the search outcome form, doesn't apply to you. But if not, it should serve as a reminder to just fill that out before moving the person to phase 6 or 7. And that ties into the services complete status table. Some fields from that search outcome activity form will pull into this table so that you have more information that's easily visible to you. So if you indicated that their services or their search did get paused, it'll say yes in that column. And if you've filled out a date on which you're expecting to next check in with that participant, that date will fill in for you there. So even if you don't have a scheduled contact in the future with them, you'll be able to quickly look down the list of those dates and see which are coming up. And then that, will remind you that you need to schedule a contact with that person and plan to check in with them. All right, I'm gonna pull that up. All right, so the first thing are these scheduled contacts. Here's the search bar. I don't have very many but if I hit all, I have a few more. If I didn't want to just scroll down and I wanted to find my check-in with April Test, I can just begin searching her name and that will come in. Or if I want to look at which contacts I have scheduled for December, I can type in 12 and my December contacts that are upcoming will show up. Same thing for overdue. The search bar works the same way. And then in the overdue section, this is where I can, hold on.
And then, so maybe
Yeah.
show for a particular day, since that seems really useful. Like if,
Yeah.
yeah.
If I wanted to look at I don't know if I have any repeats on the same day, but if I just wanted to see everything that I had on November 30th, I would search 11-30, and then any other contacts that had this scheduled date would show up. If I go to, I guess it's both of these, but this show more tab will expand for me and then I can tuck it back in. That wasn't a great example because there's so few, but this one has a bit more, goes long, and then I can put it back in so that I don't have to keep scrolling forever to get to the dashboard. All right, I am going to show you the search outcome form. So this person's in phase 4. I'm going to begin a contact with them. And let's say that they need to pause their search. So I'm going to be moving them to phase 7. I'll go to change phase. I'm going to put them in phase 7. And when I do that, I'm going to get this pop-up. So that should remind me, oh, I'm moving them to phase 7. I need to make sure I do a search outcome form. So to access that, if I'm not in phase 5, I go to all activities, search outcome, and then I have these questions to ask. So this person is not going to move. The reason they're not going to move is because they wanted to stop searching. Household needed some time before moving, health issues. But I had a conversation with this participant and she thinks maybe in 3 or 4 months it'll be a bit better timing. So I'm gonna right here that I'm gonna check in with her the 2nd week of February. And I can put that in my notes or anything else in my notes. And then I'm gonna save that and end the contact. So now that participant shows up and the service is complete, it pulls in from the form that I just filled out that their services were paused. and it's telling me the next expected contact date. The moved in date doesn't apply, but if they had moved or if they were going to move, then I would be putting that date in there. All right, to the slides. Any questions about that? The search outcome form, scheduled contacts, navigating any of that? Okay. All right. Oh, I could have just shown this, but the activity history on the household report will show you the date of the last update. So, if I've already started an activity form within a contact, as you know, I can pull up that activity form again anytime I want, just directly from the household report. I can edit it and I can view it. So if I'm editing any information in an activity form outside of a contact with a participant, now I can see when that last update took place. Um, Owner, we're kind of shifting to the owner side right now, but all owner disbursements can be edited. So you can edit the amount that was dispersed, the date, who it was paid to, although that shouldn't be happening, or the notes. So you can edit any of those fields. You would just make those changes directly in the form, hit save, and then you'd refresh the page and you'd see the updated disbursements in the disbursement history on the owner page. Sort of hand in hand with that, we've edited the logic of property owner activity forms a little bit. So it makes sense that when you're doing a property owner activity, whether it's a security deposit or a post-move check-in, it will apply to one of those property owners' units that are entered into the tool, and it will apply to a household that's been referred to one of those units. So instead of having the unit drop-down menu in the activity form show any unit that's available, it's now going to show all units that are associated with that owner, whether they're available or unavailable. So a unit is most likely marked as unavailable if a participant has already leased up, but you would still need to access that unit in an activity with a property owner if it was a post-move check-in or something like that. So all of the property owners' units will show up, and then once you select a unit of the household drop down, you'll start typing, and the list of names that will show up are any household that's been referred to that unit. That's easier shown than described. So I will demo that so you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go to Willy Wonka. Um, I can see in unit history or in list of associated units, he only has one, but it's been associated with a few different households. So, or I'll show you an edit disbursement first. So if I want to edit this security deposit that was paid in February, it was paid to the household Nearly Done about this unit 1658 Lake Road. I can just hit edit here. Um, Maybe I realized that I entered 600, but it was actually a $650 security deposit. And I thought that I paid it on February 9th, but it was actually on the 11th. And I did pay it to the same households. That should stay. Um, and then if I want to edit this note, I can save that. Just quickly refresh the page. And then I can see my updated, oh, that repeated, but I can see the updated disbursement here. On the household report, disbursements are also editable, all fields now. So that should be really helpful. You can't delete them, but if you make an accidental disbursement or there's a duplicate, you can just set the dollar amount to $0 now. And that will sort of be like a flag to us that that was a mistake. Disbursement. Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna go back to Willy Wonka. Oh, here it is, person. So you can edit the household disbursements from the household report also. Same thing, I can edit the amount, the date, any notes. The property owner disbursements that show up on the household report, you'll have this message that they're editable in the property owner report. And then if you open that in a new tab, it'll bring you right to the property owner report, and you can do that editing from the disbursement history section on the property owner report. I am going to start an activity form with this property owner so that you can see what the new drop down looks like. So I'm going to open up a request for a RIFTA assistance. Again, it only is showing me this one unit because this property owner only has one unit. But if there were multiple, it would all be showing up in this drop down. And then I'm going to begin typing in the household name, and that household's going to pop up because the tool knows this household nearly done has been referred to that unit. And I'm not going to finish this, but that's what that logic will look like. So hopefully it's a little bit easier. If you are noticing that someone's been referred to a unit and they're not showing up in the drop down, let us know because it's a bug or something. But we've tested the logic a lot, so hopefully it should be working. Any questions? Feel free to just come off mute or raise your hand or put anything in the chat.
Michael had put in a question
Oh, thank you.
about deleting the $0 entry. I think we're trying to minimize manual changes to the data, but we can if there's a reason that in terms of counting something and it's important that that $0 entry get out, we can go to the developer and ask them to take out that piece of data. But we're trying to minimize the times we'll go back to the developer. So basically, it's possible, but that's right. Okay. Is that
Okay, doesn't look like anything else. Great. Okay. So the next edit is that we've allowed for repeated activity forms for some activities where it's perfectly reasonable that you would have to be doing multiple and you'd need a fresh activity form each time. So that's the phase 4 ongoing check-ins, the phase 6 additional post-move check-ins, phase 7 open door check-ins, and then the phase 7 annual check-ins. So the way that that works in the tool is to initially do that activity, you are within a contact, like always. So you'd pull it up in the contact as normal, fill out the fields in the activity form, save it, and then when you went to look at that activity form in the activity history section of the report, there will be an option to add a new one. So you can select that and it will pull up a blank version of the form for you. And then any previous version of that activity that you've completed will be accessible in a hyperlink in that section that says previous check-ins with the date. So here they both say October 30th because I did 2 in one day, but in most cases they would have a unique date for the day that the form was started. And then um, we have a new activity form that's affordability. So the affordability section has always been part of the pre-move appointment, but now it's like its own official section. Um, and that's just so that the affordability section is a little bit more detailed. It mostly is just like checking boxes to confirm that you've gone through these steps with the family during the pre-move appointment. So you indicate if you've done the individual affordability calculator, can the family afford to search for housing at the 40% price point? You're going to check to indicate that you've had a discussion with the family, and then any relevant notes you'd fill in there. So I will show you in the tool what those repeated activity forms and what the new affordability form looks like. Okay, so um, I'm going to start a, actually, I'm going to go to something else. Okay, so with Laura O'Connor, I'm going to move to phase 6 and start a post-move check-in. I'm going to just do the additional one so that it's shorter. Okay, and I'm going to end this contact. So now in the activity history section, I can see that here. Um, if I were adding a new one, I would want to be in a contact, but just for demonstration's sake, it pulled up a totally blank form for me. But if I want to look at my form, my older form, I just click on that and it'll show me what it looks like. And then I can select add new to get another blank one. I'd say this is the second check-in. And now when I'm looking at here, I see that I have 2 previous check-ins with that household. And this is very similar to how those other activity forms, like the phase 4 ongoing check-ins during search, the annual check-in, very similar, where the old forms will be available via hyperlink, and then every time you open it, you'll get a blank one. Okay, and then I am going to, so this is like a out, so affordability is not showing up here because this household completed their pre-move appointment before we added it. But if I pull up their pre-move appointment, it does come up. It's just blank. So if I put information in here, as I would be doing during the pre-move appointment, it will show up now in the pre-move appointment step. So I could pull up just the affordability activity and edit it if I needed to. Those are all the revisions that we had to show you. I'm just confirming that. But yes, it is. So we have resources. Some of these are minor changes, some of them are bigger changes. So we just want to make sure that you have all the information that you need. Um, I sent out a report definition chart back when I sent out the notice for the batch 1 revisions. I will probably send it out again. So if you can't find it don't worry, I'll send it out again. This morning to all service tool users, I sent out the guidance document number 4, which gives more details and screenshots about the new inactive subcategories and when to use those. The recording of this training will be posted on YouTube, and I'll send out the link, and it will also be on the First Pick website. The slides will also be posted on the First Pick website, and I will send them out along with the recording after this. And then we have our regular weekly office hours every Thursday from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern. So as you're kind of getting used to some of the changes, also, of course, the email, you can always email us that. If like you notice something is not working, is sort of off, of course, let us know. If you just have questions, if there's something that we missed in our explanation, hop on office hours or send us an email, and we'll be able to address it. Any questions, comments? Danny, anything you want to add?
Nope, don't have anything to add. Thank you. Gabby?
Hi there. I was not here for the first recording, so maybe you address this. I'm just curious what the expectations are with all the people who've already gone through the program. So if like 170 participants, it would be a lot of going back and filling in, let's say like the affordability or like making these updates. I'm just curious, is that what you all want, or is this like moving forward, this is what we're doing?
Moving
It's all,
forward.
yeah, it's all moving forward. None of this is supposed to be kind of retroactive data entry. It's all to increase functionality going forward.
Yeah.
Got it.
The only thing that I would add is if like you know for a fact that you put someone in services complete, but it makes a lot more sense for them to be in one of the inactive statuses, just for your own organization, move their status. But yeah, no like extra data entry or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
I see in the chat, Maria, were you on for when Danny went over the reports of which ones were available? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, keep going, Zoe.
Okay. I don't typically send out an email when they have been added. Oh, sorry, I'm misunderstanding your question. Yes, we will tell you as soon as the reports are ready in the tool. And I will send out a list of the ones that are currently working and currently not working so that if you only need like one and it's one that's working, you can go right to the tool instead of dealing with the whole file transfer thing. But yes, we are just as eager for that as you are. So we will let you know as soon as it happens. Anything else? Questions?